I have a person that works for me that's always hoping I get fired from my day job.
Because they don't like you?
No. They think it would be amazing.
Oh, how do you feel about that? Do you think it'd be amazing? They want to see you just not being able to pay your bills and support your family.
No. Like they feel like I could figure it out.
Oh,
they want to see me try to figure it out, right? Like, so we always say, let's get fired. You good?
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome.
This is the episode.
This is the episode. We do maybe.
The episode where you have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah. Well, we work off of a cold opening. How do I even say your last name?
Mannis.
Ari Mannis.
Yeah.
He always says Ari. He never says the last name.
That's fine with me.
So.
Uncle Ari, whatever you want.
Uncle Ari with the van.
Yeah. I did. You saw the van videos?
I saw the van videos.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, I don't know how I've missed the van videos because this is right on my.
Are you a van guy?
Not a van guy, but a van humor guy.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I got a guy that I can hook you up with. He has a bus. Kind of.
Buses are cool. I thought about the bus, but it's just parking it, the gas.
He lives in it, I think.
Right.
Like he went from, he was a track star at UConn and went down to San Diego. And I think he lives in
my hometown. Yeah. If I had a place to keep a bus, plot of land somewhere, I'd do the bus.
I saw land in Arizona recently. It can't cost more than like 50 cents.
Too hot. Arizona's a desert that I don't want to be part of.
So thank you for coming on the show,
Thanks
man.
for having me. Yeah.
Chris had recommended you before this.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Chris.
And so I did a tiny bit of research and I was like, this would be fun. I'm not a very good podcast host. So I
don't agree with that.
So there's that component. And then like the 2 to 3 dozen people that will hear this, will get past that. But I think
it's all about quality, not quantity. Maybe 2 or 3 of them are good people that I want to hear this, and then the other of them, they suck.
There's at least like 7 good people that want to hear
that's it. All that matters.
Like that's
for them.
First off, I think comedy as a business has just been transformed over the last 10 to 15 years in tremendous ways.
Yeah.
And here you are sitting at that juxtaposition of business and comedy. For those that don't know, you own where we're at.
I own a podcast studio called Melrose Podcasts. We just opened our 3rd location. So we have LA, New York City, and Austin, Texas now.
Yeah. And without you opening, I wouldn't be able to do this. So I started trying to do a podcast like, let's say 2016, 2017. And there were hurdles every point where I couldn't do it well enough that for the 2 dozen people that would listen or watch, I would be proud of it. And so like your business has made that possible. So thank you for that.
Thanks for using it.
Yeah.
Appreciate your business.
So how did you find Melrose?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you said. Podcasting is one of those things that's there's a wide range of quality of podcasts because you could do one on your phone and thousands of people do. They just download a recording app and do it on their phone. And you could also do it like this, where there's 3 cameras and there's a microphone and it looks almost like a TV show or Howard Stern back in the day. So there's a wide range of quality. I am the type that doesn't half-ass things. So since I've been doing podcasting, even for fun for myself, I was always spending thousands of dollars I didn't have to get a nice camera and to get the best recording equipment and the best microphones, even though...
Why is that important to you?
I don't know. I think I'm just kind of a perfectionist. If you do something half-assed, it's not impressive. I want to be impressive.
Does it hold you back to have to hit those points? Because
it does sometimes.
It's a similar stance, right? Like, you built this.
Mm-hmm.
People can see the 700 coffee cups I've drank off the reflection of my teeth because of the quality at which you do it, right? But it makes it easy to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have this mentality of, well, wait till I can do it this way and then I'll do it. And they never do anything. But I do like to think that most of the times I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So I have a perfectionist mentality. I do have the mentality of let's do it right, but I still will accomplish it. So I think that's a good quality. I don't have all good qualities, but that's one of my good qualities. So I was doing it as a hobby for a decade, really. I built a studio in my garage. I was helping bigger comedians and comedy clubs with their podcast.
Why would you just...
I like to help people, and also especially people I admire. So, for example, like Theo Von, Andrew Santino, the Comedy Store. These are places that I really
Andrew
wanted to be.
Santino's the guy with the kind of creepy mustache.
No, Andrew Santino has a beard and red hair, bright red hair. He hosts a podcast called Bad Friends with Bobby Lee and his own podcast with Whiskey Ginger. So pretty successful comedians.
Yes.
And
Dave.
He was on the show Dave. On FX. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I'm confusing him with the guy with the kind of creepy mustache.
I don't even know which guy.
He's on the new show Tires,
which
is a good show.
Yes. I know who
Shane Gillis?
It's not Shane Gillis.
But the other guy.
The other guy with the mustache.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. That scares me. He's like Italian.
Yeah, fat guy. What's his name? Anyway.
Stavros.
Yeah, Stavros.
No.
Okay.
The skinny guy. He's got like kind of it reminds me of the Nazi haircut, and he's got that
like
mustache.
Mine.
What?
Like mine.
No. We'll find out later. Google. He's on like everything. Like in that circle. So,
yeah, like much in the way that Chris maybe helps you with this podcast because he looks up to you and admires you and likes working with you.
He pays me.
He paid, and I got paid a little bit too. Peanuts. I got paid peanuts to do these things.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be a part of their life and their careers and be helpful to them and know them. Really.
Are you learning in the process?
I am. Yeah. I made tons of mistakes. I learned what to do, what not to do. And I was doing all this for essentially no money. I would get some stage time because as a comedian, stage time is very valuable. It's hard to get and you lose money getting it. You do all sorts of free shows. You bark on the street. You hand out tickets. You do whatever it takes because the only way you're going to get better is by performing. So I was doing that. And all of a sudden, my business partner, also my best friend, comedian, his name's Abby Roberge. We were hanging out. We were door guys at the Comedy Store. And we'd get minimum wage and work there till 2 a.m. and then go get junk food every night.
At the pizzeria right there?
Yeah, Joe's Pizza, at the diner, at Cantor's Deli, wherever we went. And we'd hang out in my living room till 3 a.m., literally 5 nights a week, just brainstorming how to make it in comedy, how to have a career, just trying to better ourselves. We really wanted it. And he's like, hey, you should start a podcast studio because you already basically have one that you do for no money. Right. He's like, this would be such an easy pivot and maybe you'd make some extra money. He's like, maybe you could even just have a studio that gets paid for itself with bookings. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. I was like, I don't really want to do that on my own. He's like, I'll do it with you. And I'm like, okay. And
was he the type of person that you were like, yeah, or was it that friend that, like my best friend said, I'll do it with me. I knew 2 months later I'm by myself.
Even though I like to get things done, I'm more motivated when I have someone pushing me and when I'm doing it with someone else. And that's with everything, going to open mics, going to the gym.
How bad is an open mic? Like your early ones?
I still do awful things for stage time. And I'm 12 years in and a professional, whatever you want to call me. But last night I performed for 15 people. They were a good 15 people, but still I walked in and it was supposed to be a sold out show, and it was a good lineup of comedians, and there was 12 people. The AC was broken.
That's nice.
It was a shit show.
How important is the audience to the live show?
I think everyone has a different thought on the matter, but I think very important. I think everyone would say they're very important, but some people are like, never blame the audience. I blame the audience all the time. If I have a really bad set, I'm like, I've been doing this. I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times. I know when I'm funny. I know when a joke works. I'm like, this joke works 90% of the time. So if this audience doesn't laugh at it, it's a little bit on them, right? A little bit. I'm not saying no one could get them and I should fully blame them, but.
So I used to go to the Comedy Cellar when Dave Chappelle was the host. So that's how long I've been watching.
That's
been
cool.
watching.
He's a legend and an alcoholic. I've never seen him not blackout drunk. But he's awesome.
I quit drinking in Thanksgiving 2000. Mm-hmm. This was before that. And Dave Chappelle was an outstanding drinker on Wednesday nights. I don't know the other nights, but he was always very good. It was after Half Baked, but before the Chappelle show.
Got it. So he was definitely a working comedian. Everyone knew he was great, but he wasn't a star yet.
Correct. He had the sprinkle crack on me one.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that summer. So I want to say it was summer of 2000. Nick Swardson.
I opened for him sometimes.
He did the the grandmother. I watched him work that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a superhero when I
bit.
go to my grandmother's. That was a cool.
And when he was doing that bit, he was probably like 23, 24 years old.
He was super. He was as young as me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was drinking Guinness from a pitcher in the middle. I was in the Comedy Cellar a few nights ago, and I looked over. I was like, that was my booth.
That's awesome.
And the one of life's greatest compliments I ever got was from Colin Quinn. He'd come in on Wednesday and read. He wouldn't tell jokes. He'd just read what was going to be the news on Saturday Night Live.
Literally just read it?
Just read it. And then he'd go, check, and like X. And then I'd never watched that. So
that's cool. That's good history.
That was like the beginning of my comedy live piece.
Right.
And they really were working with the audience. There was a symbiotic relationship that I picked up on.
And I'm not a crowd work comedian per se, but I do acknowledge the room and bring people in and ask people little questions. So yeah, I think the audience is really important. And to just go off of what you were saying, love all those comedians, but Nick Swardson was one of my favorites before I did comedy. I watched his Comedy Central half hour, loved him. I at one point joined his internet message board before I did comedy, and I went to his show and I DM'd him on his website. I was like, hey, do you meet your fans after the show? And he's like, yeah, find me after the show. And I took a picture. I have a picture of me and him when I was 16 years old. And then this year, he added me on Instagram, was like, I found your videos. I love your comedy. He brought me on the road with him to Colorado, and I showed him the picture. I was like, hey, that's me paying to see you when I was 16. It was like the coolest full circle moment.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, it is weird. It's not planned. I'm not the type of guy that goes out and seeks out my favorite comedians and tries to meet them and kiss their ass and network them.
Like Chris.
Yeah. But energies align. I seriously find myself happening to work with or get along with and just naturally become friends with the people who I like the most, who our sense of humor is match. And so like with Nick Swardson, I'm like, wow, you're my favorite. And this just happened organically. Theo was one of my favorites. It happened. Santino. It's really weird.
So theory I have, like, make a bucket list, but put something you can never do. That way you can't die. Paint a portrait with George Bush down in Midland. It's up there. Could never do that, right?
Right.
Friend of mine's brother marries his daughter.
And just happens.
It's now possible. And I'm like a little afraid to venture into that world, you know, because like then I'll
vision
die.
Board. You're saying a vision
then
board.
I'll die. If I do it, I'll die. And I'm very worried.
Just put a lot of things on it.
Well, I made it. And then I said, well, I'll tick off all the other things, but I'll never do that one.
Right.
Now I'm too close to the sun.
I hope it happens for you. That'd be a good way to die, though. If I finish all the things on my vision board and then I die, it's like fulfilled, like great life.
That's why I don't worry about dying, really. At the end of it, like, my wife sits around and worries, like,
she's scared to death.
You walked out of the house, you're going to get hit by a bus.
Got it. I couldn't be with a woman like that.
She's wonderful.
Yeah, I bet.
She is. She just worries about...
For you, I couldn't be with a woman that would be worried about me dying every time I leave.
Right, that's why I married her.
Yeah,
like
she's
like
yours.
Her and I. Yeah, we're good. And
I'm saying you could keep her, and I'll never steal her from you, or even try to.
I appreciate that. Yeah, but never try to either.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But no, in all honesty, I just don't worry about dying. So I've done stupid things. I don't worry about. We started off on the open, like, eulogy. I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to take chances that I think most people are not willing to take.
Would you say you're a thrill seeker?
No, I don't think so. Like, I'm not jumping out of planes. Like, I don't do that. I do death is. I grew up in a funeral home. Like, my family has owned a funeral home.
So you've been around a lot of dead bodies?
A lot of dead bodies. I started working like 14 at the funeral home.
Wow. So you're the type of guy that dead bodies don't faze you?
Really? I mean, they faze you in that, like, if they're gross, they're gross. Like, but you're able to overcome, like, it's just gross. Like, most people would see it and be like, run away. I'm like, it's gross.
You're like, there's another dead guy.
Let's clean it up.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of money in funeral homes, though.
If you do it right.
I was listening to a podcast on the business of funeral homes at one point, and it was interesting. I didn't want to start one, but I did find it interesting.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. My sister, it apparently is for my sister. She's buying it from my mother.
Oh, cool.
But having grown up in that environment, you have those you have conversations. People die.
This might be a little bit of an inappropriate question. Did you ever come across like a necrophiliac or someone
No,
weird
I didn't.
in the business?
No, I didn't. I don't think it's inappropriate. It's kind of gross.
Yeah.
I've never knowingly come across
Right.
it. There was a guy, Trevor, one time in Boston that maybe, but
I'm thinking the guys who, maybe the security guard you hired for the midnight shift.
no, we don't have security guards,
Okay,
and
got
it's family. So we lived in the funeral home.
Got it. Okay.
So we didn't need security. When I went to college in Boston, we would do pickups like in the middle of the night. So you would run from like 6 p.m. Thursday night to 6 a.m. And if you were there was a first team, second team. If you're a first team, you run the whole 12 hours.
Wow.
And so Trevor was there. I don't know whatever happened to Trevor. I haven't seen him in 25 years. I'm assuming he's not one of the 24 people that watch this. He could have been kind of creepy because he was creepy Trevor. Like, you ever met a Trevor that isn't?
You're right.
Yeah.
Every single Trevor out there.
But there's no,
probably
I've never heard anything specifically about that. And if you had been around dead people, it would make sense. You'd be like, yeah, that's just gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the business of what you do, when did you realize, hey, it's not just comedy, there's a whole business?
So yeah, we started the first studio in LA on Melrose Avenue. And literally the goal was, hey, maybe we could have enough people renting it out to where we have a free podcast studio to use for ourselves, or maybe we make a little extra money. There was never an intention of this is going to pay my bills, this is going to be a big business, we're going to start another one.
How big can this business be?
Really big, because there's not just the studio side where we rent out the studio. There's also ad side. So let's just say your podcast blew up and instead of a few dozen people listening, you had tens of thousands listening. Then we could sell ads for you. And now all of a sudden we're making money on ads.
Have you seen Nad's underwear?
No, but they probably do a bunch of podcast ads, I assume.
I don't know.
An underwear
but
ad.
I think they would be a good.
Yeah, there's MeUndies. I've heard of that one.
So that one is okay, but the founder didn't go to UConn.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah,
so Nads is the MeUndies
Nads,
of UConn.
Well,
Got
it's
it.
the organic underwear. Keeps you from getting cancer of your testicles.
There's a lot of brands now that most of their business marketing was through podcasting.
Yeah.
So there's the Dollar Shave Club, and there's the
Have you ever heard of Madison Reed?
I've heard
Hair
of it.
color, women's hair color.
They're big too. That's
they,
UConn.
They blew up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So theoretically, if you blew up, you could reach out to all these UConn companies. I mean, I guess you don't even need to blow up. Honestly, if you have the right salesman, you could do it even with a smaller podcast. But the point is, the money is potentially very large because you're in for us, we have two sides of the business. One is the studio rentals, which isn't chump change. It's good money. And then there's the non-production side of ad sales, and that's endless money. Because you could sell for ads that don't even record at your studio. You could sell for ads all over the world.
Is there something specific about selling ads for podcasts? Like, is that something you've learned, you and your partner have learned to be an advantage over everybody else in the world?
I would say one of the advantages is just that we work so closely in all aspects of podcasts. So we have the production side down, we have our comedy network down, we have relationships with all the middleman ad agencies and direct to consumer companies. But honestly, no, there's nothing special, nothing super special about what we do. There's other competitors. So that's the downside as far as just the ad side of the business goes. There's nothing super unique that we do.
So how big? How big do you think? Like, when do you go, all right, so
I would
Abby
say
was your partner?
Abby's my business partner.
So Abby, we're going to sell this. Like, we got an offer. We need to get out of the
It's
way.
interesting. We never started this with the intention of building it up to sell. We have had a couple offers now. And for me, to want to sell, because to be honest, also, this isn't a full-time job for me.
Right.
I have it down to where it's a part-time job for me. So I don't hate it. I think it's fun. It's exciting. I get to meet cool people. I get to meet you. So
cool people plus me.
Cool people and you, yeah. And unfortunately. But I don't really have a desire to sell it. If obviously the right offer came along to where I could kind of retire and do whatever I wanted with my life, then I probably still would. because that'd be awesome.
What would you do if you were retired? You're too young to retire right now. What would you do? You'd be back doing stand-up.
Doing stand-up. I'm still doing stand-up. So I would do more stand-up. I would maybe start another business for fun. I'd travel. But it would be a nice just security thing. Go buy a house. Just be an adult.
Why? Yeah, like you're obviously captivated by the comedy piece. Why wouldn't you take that money and just get deeper?
I might. That's the thing. But yeah, so I don't really have a desire to sell, but I'm just saying if someone came along and was like, hey, I'll give each of you $10 million to have your business, I'd probably be like, yeah, okay, right. I'll do that. Yeah.
And then you're going to go retire? No.
Not fully retire. No,
do you buy a comedy club? Would you ever buy a comedy club?
I've worked at a lot of comedy clubs. I used to work at the Ice House in Pasadena, the Comedy Store I was a door guy at, and just performing at so many clubs. That's a business I don't want to be part of. I like the Comedy Store. I wouldn't want to own the Comedy Store. I'd like to perform at all these comedy clubs. Owning one is it's a real passion project. There's not, I would say, generally speaking, though a Comedy Store makes a lot of money, most of these comedy clubs don't make that much money. It's stressful. You have to fill them out each night. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of dealing with comedians that have egos and your wait staff and agents and managers. It's just, no, it's not for me. I wouldn't want to do that. No. If I was Joe Rogan, I see why he started a comedy club, because he's one of the biggest comedians in the world, and it just on his name alone, it's sold out months in advance. It's kind of an easy business in that regard. But as an unknown, as a non-famous person to start a comedy club, you have to really want that to be your life.
Doesn't Brad Garrett have one in Vegas?
He has one in Vegas. Yeah, the Brad Garrett Comedy
really
Club. It's in the MGM. I think he is to a certain demographic. Yeah. And also Vegas has this built-in audience. So he's in the MGM hotel. They send people his way. Okay. I don't know the deal he has too. I bet you when he started, I could be wrong on this, but I bet you they said, hey, we just want to use your name. You'll get money no matter what.
That's the casino deal, right?
Yeah. So it was an easier yes for him. Even though I know he is there.
I definitely would have got a bigger name.
Than Brad Garrett. Remember when Everyone Loves Raymond was out? He was big at that time.
Yeah, he was big, but
who knows? Yeah, how many people said no before he took it? There's the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club in Vegas. I think I've done most of them in Vegas. And honestly, the Brad Garrett Comedy Club was one of the better ones.
How does Kimmel get away from the Man Show?
I think it's, again, I'm speaking to something that I wasn't there for, that I don't really know.
You weren't there?
I wasn't there.
You're not old enough to remember?
I'm old enough, but I'm saying, so I don't know his story, so I might be giving wrong information. Right. But I think that you're saying, because now he's like this liberal Democrat guy who hates Trump and has a talk show when he gets paid to fight with hot Trump. Girls on trampolines with their titties bouncing around everywhere, is what I know him as. That's I think you sign a deal with the devil.
How is Louis C.K. done and Jimmy Kimmel not?
I think Jimmy Kimmel signed a deal with the devil for a lot of money. He was in the running for this talk show, and they said, hey, if we give you this talk show, you can't be pulling Man Show shit anymore. Yeah. Like, you have to join our machine. You're back. We have tons of sponsors. You can't be messing this up for us. And he saw the check, and he goes, I'll do whatever you say. That's fine. I'll do anything.
And then Dave Chappelle didn't.
Dave Chappelle said, I'll go to Africa, fuck everyone. I don't care.
Isn't that a wild thing? Like, this is the profession you chose to walk into, and there's a business around it.
But it's changed a lot even since then. Like, my goals going into it when I started in 2012 were, maybe I could be an actor, or maybe I could have a talk show, or who knows. Those aren't my goals anymore. Truly, I just want to get a following on the internet and do my own thing. If someone offered me one of those things at this point in my career, I'd say yes, but it wouldn't be my number one goal. So why
is your internet content not more? You own the studio. Why don't you have more? Is it quality versus quantity? Is it
a little both? I'm picky. I'm a little lazy. I don't have
honest. You're honest.
I'm honest. But I recently hired a guy this week, actually, that's going to edit 3 clips a week for me. So I'm getting back into it. So probably the biggest growth I ever had on social media was during the pandemic. A guy reached out to me, a young comic. His name's Will. And he goes, hey, I'm Jimmy O Yang's assistant. I do his clips. I think I could grow your social if you want me to put out clips. And I was like, yeah, go for it. And he got me 80,000 followers from just posting consistent content all the time. And then we kind of ran out of content a little bit. He got busy.
What's that like?
What?
As a comedian to run out of content?
I didn't
feel
think too
like?
much. I didn't have a feeling of like, oh no, I ran out. It was just like, okay, I ran out. We gotta come up with more. It's just the nature of the business. So yeah, it wasn't this moment of going, oh no, I'm out. I'm dry. It was just, okay, cool. I'm out. Now I need to think of more.
Because of the podcast that we do and because of the job I have, I think about this as like a comedian in 2012. Becoming an entrepreneur wasn't, like you said, it was become a talk show host, become an actor, get a rom-com, like all of those pieces. And now I look at it and I think Rogan deserves, for all the things that he is, he deserves real credit.
Definitely. Oh,
own your own editorial, decide who sponsors you, make your own money.
Rogan is the Carson of our era. So Johnny Carson had a talk show in, when was it? The 80s, 70s, 80s?
I think all of them. I think it was like 60s to 90s.
Yeah, 60s to 90s. And as a comedian, your whole goal was get on Johnny Carson. If he calls you over to the couch to talk after your set, you'd have a career. Yeah. You'd be touring the country, selling out comedy clubs. And then that became Jimmy Kimmel and Conan and David Letterman and Leno. Those things don't move the needle anymore. If I could go on Jimmy Fallon multiple times.
He's very tall.
And it'd be cool. It'd be a great notch on the belt. It would be the amazing experience that every comedian wants. But you wouldn't be able to sell out a comedy club from that. You wouldn't have a comedy career from that. You would just be like, oh, that guy's done Fallon. That's pretty cool. That's all it would do for you. You go on Joe Rogan and have a great episode where you're funny and engaging, it could change your whole life. It could change your whole world. It could bring you to the next level.
How many people is he reaching, you think?
Millions.
For sure, millions.
Yeah, I don't know how many. Maybe 100 million, I'm guessing. I don't really know.
Because like he cuts, you got the episode, then you cut the clips, and then you got everybody. I think I've decided there's a place in this social media driven, internet driven, when people cut up your material and post it on their account, now you're like, you've made it.
When you have other people
when they're getting paid, getting hundreds of millions of views combined, et cetera, because they post your stuff.
It's not that hard to get there. Honestly, if you get one mega viral clip, which I've had a few, then all of a sudden I see other accounts posting that same episode and cutting up that clips. The amount of heat you have behind you and the amount of virality you have behind you dictates how many people are going to be cutting up your stuff.
What's your favorite clip you've done?
Probably, I posted this one, I don't know if you saw it, about the cruise ship where I went on.
I didn't.
So I was on, 8 years ago, I was on this MTV show called Greatest Party Stories Ever.
Wow.
And no one watched the show. But it was a cool show. You just sat in a cool location. In our case, it was a story about being on a cruise ship. So we were sitting on the back of a yacht, and they filmed us telling the story, and then they made animations to go over the story. And they played it on MTV, and it was cool, but MTV was already kind of dead when it came out. So I don't know how many people saw it on there. Let's just say 100,000, but it could be less than that, could be more. I don't know. Didn't think about it for the last 8 years. All of a sudden, earlier this year, I was like, you know what? I should edit that to be an Instagram reel. I have the video, and MTV is dead.
Right.
They don't care.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, they're not going to do anything. So I clipped it together as a 1 or 1.5 minute reel. I can't remember. It got 35 million views on Instagram. It just took off. And it was the first piece of content I've ever put out where all the comments were positive. Everything else I do, I'm pretty controversial.
How many dozen people is that? 35 million.
That's a lot of dozen.
3 million dozens.
Yeah, it's a lot of eggs. Yeah, it's a lot of donut boxes.
I got two, 3 dozen.
Yeah, it was insane. So it took off, and it not only did it take off, but everything else that has taken off for me. Half the comments are, this guy sucks, this guy's a pervert,
right?
This guy's a pedophile, whatever it is. And half the comments are like, it's funny, grow up, he's a comedian, leave him alone.
They're arguing as to whether...
This video, all the comments were, this is amazing. This should be a movie. It was super positive because the negative stuff does get to me a little bit.
Does it really?
Less than it used to. The first video that ever went viral for
So
me.
you're a sensitive comedian?
I'm sensitive.
Do you
I
go
pretend
home?
not to be on stage, but I am.
But then you go home, do you cry?
I've never cried from the negative comments, but it's bummed me out. And I had the first video to ever go viral for me was me talking about, it's a teacher joke about teachers and how I don't think they should be paid more than they do.
Yeah.
A joke. I don't really care how much teachers get paid, but it was a joke. And it went viral. And all these comments were like, this guy's an asshole. Fuck this guy. You know, teachers getting mad and a lot of negative
Teachers
comments.
get mad at a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So it was all these, half of them getting mad, half of them like me. But I remember it was posted by the Laugh Factory and I reached out to their team and I said, hey, can you take this down? Like, I'm getting a lot of negativity from it. I don't like it. I was just bummed out that so many people hated me. And one of the people on the team was my friend. And she goes, listen, like, if you really want me to, I will. But I promise you're going to get followers from this and it's going to be good for you. And I really think you should leave it up. A lot of people like it. And I was like, okay. And looking back, that was the right move because I don't care. Fuck the haters. People are going to hate what you do and people are going to like what you do. And you just have to go with the people that like what you do.
But it does hurt like a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially in the beginning. After a day, I usually don't care.
Right.
But I have
in the
thicker
moment,
skin now.
in the moment, you
and it was the first time.
It's almost impossible when people are like, "You're a fucking."
And
idiot.
especially when I was
get
new to
teaching
it.
reviews.
Oh yeah, those
And
probably
like,
sting.
I don't even ask people to do them. I got in trouble. I got an email. It's like, "Hey, you got to like do a better job of asking people to do your teacher reviews because the only people doing them are the 2 out of 80 people that hate you."
Right.
And like,
Totally.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that too.
That's the internet. The people commenting are the 2 that really hate
for the
you.
most part, yeah. And you do have to remind yourself of that too. The people that like you or don't care about you
They
are
just press
swiping
like.
next, or going to the next video. The people that hate you, and half of them are trolls too. There's a whole new breed of people out there where their whole MO is to just make people feel bad about themselves, to bring them down to their level of happiness.
I'm actually thinking about starting a troll farm myself
there's
for Nextdoor app. Are you familiar with the Nextdoor app?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to so Greenwich, Connecticut, I want to build a troll farm that just goes on their app and just trolls.
I think you should.
The people.
I think you should. Troll the trolls is what I say.
Yeah, we'll troll the Karens and like the people. Yeah, because that's like an app built for trolls.
There's a lot of trolls on Nextdoor. There's trolls everywhere on the internet now. YouTube, Twitter. Twitter's like the first one that everyone's kind of known for it, but they all have them now.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not a sensitive person, but yeah, it's like you read something and it's like
they'll cut to your core. There's someone my video will be about teachers, and someone will be like, "Look at this fat schlubby Jewish guy. Fuck him. Fuck his family." They'll say horrible shit. And
you're Jewish?
Who knows?
How do you feel about Palestine and Israel?
Love it. Love the war. Love death. No.
Yeah. I put out my feelings because, all right, so I sent, this is one of those ones. Nobody cares nobody's paying attention.
The people watching this care.
They'll figure this out in about a year and a half.
No, I'm kind of.
So the kids get arrested, right? Like they get arrested and they want amnesty.
Oh, the kids, the protesting.
Yeah. You want amnesty?
Yeah, they want to do all these brave protests that make a statement until they're getting in trouble, and they go, wait.
And you want amnesty?
Stop.
Like, why are you protesting?
Right. Don't
like send a letter.
You knew what you were doing could get you in trouble, and you were okay with it until the trouble comes.
So the faculty want to give them amnesty.
I'm sure some of them do.
Like, yeah, of course. It's the trolls, right? Yeah. It's the trolls that so they organize a big meeting, and I say, I want to speak at said meeting because I disagree.
Right. You want to voice your opinion.
Yeah.
On the matter.
Well, I'm not allowed to.
They literally say you're not allowed to.
I'm not in the faculty senate. So I have to submit my statement in writing to a senator.
So that they could say, should we let this guy speak or not? Or
theoretically, they're supposed to do it.
Got it.
So I get a text back.
Okay. So they'll at least
I get a text back. I was scared. I didn't read. So I put it on the Twitter. I forgot to turn off the comments before I put it on the Twitter.
I think it's good. You want the comments are what make it viral.
Yeah. But I didn't need it to go viral. I just wanted it to be. I just wanted a timestamp.
Right. You just wanted to voice your
today
opinion.
I stood for this, and like people were afraid. Wow. I had to turn it off and like stop the like in
you
like
couldn't
20
handle the hate.
It wasn't the hate. It was like it put everything. It's like, all right, let's get fired during the show. No. We can talk about Palestine and we can talk about Gaza, but you got to turn off in Israel. You got to turn off the comments because it distracts from what is being said.
I hear you.
At some point, there are, and that's the goal of many trolls is to distract from what's being said. The joke about teachers not getting paid gets distracted from by people.
Right.
They don't want to entertain the conversation. That's messed up.
Yeah.
And we see that across comedy.
But ironically, those trolls also pump the video. So it's like they're taking away from it, but they're also making it so more people see it. So it's this
that's the destructive power of the algorithm, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And like, so, I'd like to get something that isn't that clip and let the trolls pump it, but not have it be about something so as important as
Israel
and
Palestine
nuanced
debate.
as my statements about
a serious
investigating the faculty that also chose to help these students get arrested. The ones that said, don't leave, you should get arrested. Stand up. Like, that's you shouldn't be faculty if you're coaching students to do that. That was that's where my nuance was. Investigate
and I'm sure
the
those
police.
Same people would say you shouldn't be faculty for your thoughts. So it's just.
So it's like, you go back and forth.
Circles,
so let's keep the nuance on some things. Some things need the nuance, but then some things are jokes. Pump the jokes. How has 2012 to now, how has your thoughts around comedy? Because you're still living on the edge a little with your comedy.
I'm very edgy. I'd say I've gotten more edgy over the years. I've given less fucks. I think in the beginning, when traditional media was more of a goal and had more importance in comedy, I would think, I probably shouldn't do this joke. It's too controversial. Yeah. And now I think the opposite. I'm like, good. I want to be controversial. I want my audience to like that. I want to be me. I'm older. I just don't care as much anymore.
Are you controversial or are you pushing it to catch the algorithm?
I am controversial, I'd say. I'm pretty honest up there. So I say things that make me laugh, and the things that make me laugh are typically edgy. I'm kind of fucked up. So a joke about Hot Pockets by Jim Gaffigan, really funny. I love it, but it's not me. It doesn't. If I said it, it would come across as corny to me. Right. I need something. I need to push buttons. I would rather have a crowd boo me than sit there and just be silent and not laugh.
Have you had a crowd actually boo you?
I've never had a crowd boo me, luckily, because that would be horrible. Yeah. I've had people boo me. I've had individuals get really mad. But I've never had the entire crowd boo me. I have had crowds just sit there in silence.
I have a friend who is a hate magnet, averaging 3 to 10 million views per TikTok.
That's pretty cool.
Definitely want to get him on the show. Yeah. Trying multiple angles. One of his comments to me was like, "Hey, I'm intentionally a hate magnet. If you're in this universe, it's hard not to get hit."
Yeah, there's people
that's
like Andrew
not what
Tate.
You're talking about. You're talking about this is genuinely funny to me.
Yes, I personally don't post anything that I think, this is going to get all the haters. I should post this. No, I don't do that. I hope that everyone likes it. If everything was positive and everyone's like, "This is so funny," that'd be great. So you write the joke. I write the joke for me. Like I said, my favorite video is that cruise ship video, and that's all positive. That has no haters. Literally zero.
And that would be the goal.
That would be the goal. But most of my stuff is more controversial than that.
Right.
Most of my stuff. That's the first video I've ever posted that got no haters.
$10 million. You sold the podcast studio. Do you make a movie with you in it?
Spend $1 million on a movie? Maybe. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I don't have that in my head as what I would do, but right. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wrote a pilot that I would love to fund and shoot. I might even do that even if I don't sell those. I might do that with my current financial situation. The pilot I wrote is about pickleball, a guy basically leaving his job to be a pickleball player.
So one of the only, shout out to Pickle Pete, one of the only TikTok followers I have is a guy that went to UConn. Do you know him?
Not at all.
Pickle Pete.
I like the name Pickle Pete.
Pickle Pete on TikTok. I don't know how many. He plays like he's funny. And it's like kind of crappy video production. Sorry for saying that. But like it's like you can tell there's a camera in the Taco Bell, and he walks in and plays bagpipes and tries to find out, is this a pipe zone or not? And his name is Pickle Pete. And but he commented today.
Yeah.
Like that's why I bring it up. And I'm like,
And you were his
and I
teacher?
answered the I
Or you
don't
don't
know
know?
if
You
I
don't
was
know.
his
Yeah.
teacher. I don't recognize him.
Got
he
it.
went to UConn.
That's a great
He ended
concept.
up following me, and I'm following it, and I'm like, and I've thought like Pickle Pete playing pickleball would be kind of fun. Like, because pickleball.
It's a great name. I might change the name of my pilot to Pickle Pete and just make the main character's name Pete.
Well,
That's a great name.
I feel horrible for Pickle Pete, but
Yeah.
you know, he needs to ride that.
Yeah, he could
He
use
could
it.
sue you. You both could go up together.
Yeah, good press.
Yeah.
Bad press is good press.
But I mean, pickleball is funny, right?
So the name,
that's inherently funny. The fact that people play it.
Yes, it's a silly game. And so, but just to be clear, the concept of his show is today we're going to find out if this Taco Bell is bagpipe accessible or not. And he just goes.
Yeah,
to
like, are they going to
various
kick you
places.
out?
Right.
Are they going to enjoy
That's
it? And he
great.
goes
Is that
into gas
viral?
stations.
It should
I
be.
don't
That
think
sounds
so.
great.
I mean, I
I'd
noticed
watch
it.
that.
He followed me a couple weeks ago. I noticed it, so I followed him back.
Yeah.
Just because, like,
Yeah.
hey, he went to UConn, and like when you're at 180 followers, like,
Yeah, who cares?
fuck it.
Totally.
So you're like, all right. So, and I'm like, oh, this is a great name. The other, Pickle Rick, Pickle Pete. These are great names. This is real comedy. Like it's there it is. It's pretty cheesy, man. It's
Have
like,
you seen the
it's
Cart
good.
Narc?
He's got like 25,000 followers and a couple videos with
Have-
like
have-
700.
Yeah, it's good.
Have
It's
you
good
guys seen
stuff.
the Cart Narc?
No.
It's one of my favorite channels. It's this guy that goes to grocery store parking lots. He waits in the lot for someone to leave their cart, not putting their cart back.
Yeah.
And he goes up to them and he goes, "That's not where the cart goes. You got to put your cart back." And they just lose their minds.
That's good.
"What? Do you work here?" And he goes, "No, I work for the Cart Narcs." And they're like, "What? I don't have to put my cart back. Leave me alone." And they just go nuts. And it's a whole channel of just people getting so mad at him.
And
yeah.
I wonder how he's monetizing it. So yeah,
He has a lot of followers.
So you got the pipe zone, right? Like,
Oh, yeah,
what
it's
does the
doing
pickle
well.
have to do with the pipe? I don't know, but it's funny.
Yeah, I think the pickle costume was just to make it more eye-catching, so he gets more views. That's in my head what's going on.
St. Patrick's Day, I bet he was a hero. I mean, I would have showed up in Boston. You would Chicago, Savannah. Like I'd have a tour every year for St. Patrick's Day. You know,
That's
good
great.
stuff.
Pickle
So,
Pete, shout out.
Pickle Pete, but that's a living.
Yeah, you could literally make a living going to see if places are bagpipe accessible. And that's
Right.
great. And honestly, that would be such a cool living. In my mind, at least. That'd be such a great job.
It's got to be better than working in an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah. Sitting
Like-
in an office all day, instead you dress up as a pickle and play the bagpipe. One hour a day, too, probably.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. You're here. You're a guest. Why is Kim Kardashian famous?
She's hot.
All right.
Right?
We're gonna run this as like a running poll. That's
I
good
think-
enough. That's
I
the
think she's hot.
yeah. We don't
That's the
have,
main reason. If she was 300 pounds or missing a limb, would she be famous?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't know. She's saving the kids and stuff. So we're gonna run that as just a running poll. Every
guest that says
every
why
guest
she's
from
famous.
here on in is gonna have to answer the question of why.
Did you see her on the roast of Tom Brady?
Yeah.
She went up and apparently, I don't know why, because I don't hate Kim Kardashian. I don't care about her. But everyone booed her as she was going up that was there.
Really?
At where they filmed it, everyone started booing her. I heard they cut it out the boos for the Netflix.
I guess all
video, I'm
the
not
20.
sure.
I guess all the 20-year-old girls will be sad about that.
Yeah.
That's why they had to cut it off Netflix.
I think when you get so famous like Kim Kardashian, she's one of the most famous people ever, you're just going to have haters.
Yeah.
That's part of it. You can go to a Dave Chappelle video, who's arguably one of the greatest comedians ever, and some of the comments are, "This guy sucks. Not funny." And you're like, what? It's Dave Chappelle.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I've seen 25 hours of Dave Chappelle live. He's never not been funny.
He's great. Even when he's not funny, he's still smart and prolific and thoughtful and poignant. And you're like, okay, I like
Who's your
listening
favorite
to him
comedian?
talk. Louis C.K.
Mine's Norm.
Great. Norm's great.
Louis is amazing as well.
Yeah.
But like Norm's commitment to the bit is unmatched.
I love
unheralded.
Norm's don't give a fuck attitude. I love his sarcasm and demeanor. He's great. Yeah.
First time I saw him was like 1996 on the Dave Letterman show. He was a guest. And it was a weird
Yeah,
guest. He was like, nobody knew who he was really.
Yeah, another cool thing about Norm, I think this adds to his character and his lore, is he passed away from cancer, didn't tell anyone in his life he had terminal cancer, literally got canceled while having terminal cancer, didn't come out and go, I'm so sorry, by the way, I have cancer. He didn't tell anybody. He just died. And everyone's like, what? He had cancer? Even his closest friends didn't know he had cancer.
One of his last shows was at Caroline's. And before that was closed up in Midtown. And my wife got me tickets for my birthday, and we went, and he looked like he was dead. He would look
dying.
Like that was our conversation. And then one day he was dead. Yeah.
Sad.
That's sad. I mean, Louis C.K.'s not alive, but like, why can't he?
Louis C.K.'s alive.
Sorry. Louis C.K.'s not dead.
Right.
Why can't he quite come back from where he was? What do you think? Because he's good.
Cancel culture. He's great, and he sells out theaters, so he is back. But yeah, he will never, in my mind, be. At one point, he was like the number 1 or number 2 comedian in the country.
Right.
Why can't he get back there? Because there's too many woke people that are like, nope, I can't like a guy that made women uncomfortable.
But I mean, he's not David Bowie. Like, if David Bowie didn't die when he died, like the stories about what David Bowie did in the 70s would ruin him. He's
think
not
rock
like
gives
what
you a little more leniency, like hard
than comedy.
Rock and roll. I feel like rock and roll in the 70s and 80s, it's just known that they fucked everything that moved.
He's not Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor did a lot worse stuff than Louis C.K.
It was during a different time though. Enough time passed.
But yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
If you put up a Richard Pryor skit, people will watch it and they may laugh. They may not find it funny.
Mm-hmm. And he's dead. Richard Pryor's dead.
Right. So it's just like you got to die before they get you. Is that the thing? That was my point. That was where we were bringing the story.
I agree with you that he should be back in the position he wants to be in, or maybe he is in the position he wants to be in. I don't know, but I agree that I'm not saying it's right that he got knocked down a pedestal, but I think it's just society didn't want.
What did you love
down.
about his craft?
I love that he was super offensive, but you knew, at least me, I know he doesn't actually hate any group of people. He just likes to push buttons. He's just doing it to be silly and funny.
I don't think people understand comedy.
Some people don't. There's a lot of sheep out there.
Right. What's the argument for it's okay to be funny? Like, we know the woke argument that you can't say anything about anybody and like it's not funny, but like we're getting to July 4th and
this is just me. Everyone has their own belief. I used to have this thought where everyone should think the way I think. And now I have the thought of I just want to be around people that think the way I think. But for me, it's all about intent. Some people think intent doesn't matter. I think it does matter. I think if you have no intent to hurt someone's feelings, you have no malice in what you're saying, it's fine. Someone could say the most offensive thing to me in the world about my religion, about my looks, about my height, about my body weight. It won't bother me if I know that that person is my friend or not trying to hurt my feelings. If they're saying it to hurt me, then it's going to really bother me.
Because like 1986, David Noble, like some horrible shit was said to me, about me, and by me. Like stuff that you could never, ever say in today's world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it and you go, is there a correlation to the kids that are crying about anxiety and the fact that we can't even talk to each other, like as children? Like
when you say anxiety,
like
the medical diagnosis that they're babied, or that just the actual anxiety is what's making people get offended easily?
I think they're babied, and they don't know the difference between anxiety and anxiety, and like everybody's got anxiety, like clinically. No, you don't.
Right. There's definitely an over-diagnosis of ADHD, depression, anxiety, to the point where, hey, you don't have anxiety 80% of people have anxiety. At that point, you're just a person.
You're just a person.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. You don't have something if everyone else has it. You
There's
can't say
actual
that.
mathematics that come into play. And so, but this claim of anxiety, like, all right, let's say they have elevated levels of, the level was here and that, you know, it was low and now it's high. I forget that this is audio, you know, you can't see.
Oh, right.
But, you know, now it's higher. Okay, let's give that. Let's say more people actually have actionable anxiety, but it's not by accident that it's during the same period of time where you can't, like, kids are growing up where they're like punished for being kids.
Right. Yeah,
it was pretty ruthless.
It's a weird time as far as medical diagnoses and people kind of just thinking medicine's okay as long as the doctor gave it to me.
Oh,
That worked out
with
drug
that worked
use.
out with OxyContin.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, that worked out really good.
Exactly. And then, of course, 10 years later, when they find out it's horrible, they go, oh, that's so horrible. But it's not happening to me with my Adderall. That's different.
Right.
It's like,
100%.
okay, yeah, okay. Whatever you need to tell yourself. People just tell themselves what they want to hear.
I took Adderall for a little bit. So, like, they do the ADHD test, and they're like, you can't have a job. I'm like, well, I'm a highly functioning lawyer. And they're like, oh, try this medicine. I tried it. I was useless.
And that's the thing. If you go to a doctor and say, I think I have ADD, they give you the Adderall 99% of the time. Instead of having the attitude of, hey, I'd like to see if we can get you through this without any medicine, they go, here's the medicine. Yep, take it. Oh, you think you're depressed? Here's some antidepressants. It's not like, hey, have you tried going to the gym 5 days a week? Before we give you these pills.
That's drastic. 5 days a week.
Whatever. Before I prescribe you these antidepressants, have you tried a workout class? Have you tried running a few days a week? Have you tried hanging out with friends multiple times? Have you tried joining a social club or a book club or something like that? They don't do that. They're like, hey, can you try that for 3 months and then we'll try the antidepressants? They just go, yeah, antidepressants could help you. Here you go.
I'm mortified of the student videotaping my class.
Someone did do that?
No, maybe. I'm sure.
Are they allowed to or they're not allowed to?
They can. You got to treat it like they are, right?
Yeah.
It's same, but like the job isn't that different. You go up and stand in front of a crowd every day and they look at you.
They could leak it. Yeah.
And they could leak it.
Don't say the N-word in your class.
No.
That's my advice.
Don't
say it.
I can't.
Don't even think it.
Can't.
I say to myself before I get on stage every night, I say, don't say the N-word. Don't say it.
Really?
And I go up there and I don't say it.
That's good. And like you've got a 12 year
12 years haven't said it once on stage.
That's it. That's outstanding.
You say that in your car with the windows rolled up with people you trust. That's it. That's
Doors
the only
locked.
time you could say it.
No.
Don't ever say it in front of the class.
No, but I mean, I think I walk in and like one of the things they come to my class for is the honest truth that I have. And I actually have a section at the end of class where it's like, what do you want to ask? What do you want to know?
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Right? Like you paid anywhere between $20,000 and $50,000 to sit here. I could give you 10 minutes of honesty at the end of this class.
I'll take it.
And so, you know, and then you got to be honest. When you do that, you then have to deliver. And like you run the video and put it up because you're just a troll.
It could happen. I think maybe you just have to go into it knowing, hey, I'm in a world where if I'm my true self, I might get fired for being my true self, and I just have to be okay with that.
I don't think they can fire me. But
I don't either. But I think if you're worried about it, you just have to say, hey, if I do get fired for being myself, that's unfortunately the world I'm in. I'll have to look for something else to do.
That is your career.
Yeah, except with comedy now, luckily, there is now a whole audience that wants the canceled comedians. You look at Tony Hinchcliffe, who, 2 years ago, called a Chinese guy the derogatory word for that, which I should be able to say when I'm explaining a story, but I won't because I won't. And
now I gotta Google what that is.
It rhymes with Bink.
Okay.
And
I know that one.
Yeah. So he said that on stage to someone who was opening for him that was his quote unquote friend. The guy filmed it, releases it on the internet to try and get clout, does get some clout. Now I don't even know if he does stand up anymore.
I saw him once. He's not good.
Yeah, he's a horrible comedian. Did this very short term thinking, like I'm going to release this for clout. It goes viral. Tony loses his agent, his manager. He gets canceled. His tour, I think, might have gotten canceled. Anyway, the point is He's probably had a shitty week from this thing. Now he is bigger than ever. His podcast is one of the biggest
At
podcasts
Madison
in the
Square
world.
Garden doing his podcast
And
2 nights in a row.
Shane
He's
Gillis is
huge. Same thing. Shane Gillis fired from SNL. Probably had a couple years where he's like, damn, that sucked. And now it hosted SNL, has his own show on Netflix that got picked up for season 2 before it even aired.
And it's good.
Killing
it's good.
it. That is the ultimate. Yeah, it's really
Except
good.
for the guy with the mustache.
It was Schultz, by the way, Andrew Schultz.
Oh, Andrew Schultz. Yeah, Shane Gillis has, in my mind, the ultimate fuck you to the cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate, oh, you canceled me? Well, I'm actually way bigger than I would have been if you hadn't. If he had stayed on SNL.
Yeah, he'd be still paying his
obviously,
dues.
we don't know what would have happened. Maybe he'd still be a star. But in my mind, he is way bigger than he would have been if he was on SNL.
His bit about obviously having people with Down syndrome in his family is incredibly important to his success.
Yeah.
Because
he's
it
got a
explains him.
few. Yeah. His stance on that, on
But
war.
like that, it kind of gives you the okay to be like, oh, let's laugh at him.
Right, and you do need some of that when someone's doing something really offensive. You need to soften the blows sometimes.
Yeah. It's a really amazing craft to be able to write jokes. People don't realize, I think, how much goes into writing a joke, how much the joke transforms over time in front of the audience, how it moves forward, and then to move it into the business space. And I think podcasting has been incredibly transformational in that. And obviously you do as well, being such a part of it. You think back to the kid in high school wondering why they don't fit. You know, like every comedian has that story, right? Like there's some story there. You know, you're not the biggest comedian in America. You're definitely not the lowest comedian in America.
I'm right there in the middle.
And like, what would you tell a kid about that experience? Like, what would be the one thing if the kid's 16 years old and gets his photo with you?
Like what advice I would give him in comedy?
What would you tell him? You gave a story earlier that like obviously meant something to you and had a really nice set of closure there. And like, I can't help but think your experience over these 12 years, whether it's advice or whether it's like,
It's kind
just
of
sort of like about life or comedy or business, or it doesn't matter.
I mean, everyone's so different. Everyone has their own unique characteristics that make them them. So the things that work for me, like I feel weird telling anyone what to do. Like, you should do this. It's like, well, you should do what works for you. And one thing interesting about comedy is most comedians have such a unique path to whatever success they get to. You can't really you can't really see someone and just copy what they do. You can. I'm sure it does work on some level, but generally speaking, you take an Andrew Schultz and a Shane Gillis, they had a completely different path to the successes that they had. So I could only tell people what I think works for me and what doesn't work for me, and then they could take that in with a grain of salt and take what they want from it. But I think when it comes down to it as a comedian, this is what everyone says to do, and it's just so true. And you don't fully, when you're starting out, you don't fully trust that it's true. You think that people are like holding in these secrets on how to make it in comedy, but it's really as simple as writing a lot of material and performing it as many times as you can. It's simply doing the reps and the work to become good at this.
So you think it's important to practice something that you want to be great at?
It's really important. But when
that's deep.
I think it's not like this is new advice that no one's ever heard before. But for me, when I started, and I think when every comedian starts, there's a level of delusion that you need to have.
Yeah.
But it's also can hurt you. So everyone thinks they're better than they are and should be further along in their career than they are. So you don't know how many comedians I've met that are 1 or 3 years in that are like, man, I should have a special, or I should be headlining, or I should be featuring, or I should be passed at this club. And you can't say to them, no, you shouldn't, you're not good enough, because it's mean. But in my head, I'm thinking, no, you shouldn't, you're not good enough, because everyone thinks that they're better than they are. So if you really feel like you should be further along than you are, simply write more and perform more and be chill to be around, be a cool guy, and it will happen.
Hard work, good karma, practice, do it. Show up when you're supposed to.
Show up, be reliable, be good to be around. Don't be a drama queen. Be cool.
The recipe to success has not changed in 1,000 years.
It hasn't.
And it's and it doesn't matter if it's comedy or whatever it is. I mean, that's the truth. When you were talking about that, the overlap between entrepreneurial personalities and comedic personalities are high. I personally think like it's the same. They call it. They got like a psychological term for the delusion. But yeah, like you look at the stats, the mathematics. You'd never start a business if you looked at the stats and believed you weren't different than everybody else in the world. You're the one.
Yeah, 99.9% of comedians fail. And yeah, it is very similar to business because you are the business. You're marketing yourself. You're trying to get yourself booked by these as a freelancer at these clubs, at these theaters, at whatever. You're trying to market yourself with videos and Google ads and all the same things that businesses do to market themselves. You have to do for yourself. So
because it's a business.
Yeah, it's a business.
The art embeds in the business. It doesn't go away, and regardless of what kids think, capitalism tends to actually drive the machine. So. No, I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.
Anything you got? Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to do?
Do I get 10 minutes of advice?
You can have whatever you want. Like it's your studio.
What's the thing you were saying at the end? You give 10 minutes of advice or just the real?
I usually like when I have some time at the end, I say like ask any question you want and I'll give you the answer as honestly as I can give it.
So you've been in my business here.
Yeah.
A few times now. You said you stalked me on the internet for 2 hours before the interview. What do you think I should do differently? I'm open to criticisms or constructive criticism or ideas.
No,
and this could be in regards to my comedy or the podcast studio. Is there something that you're like, man, they should be doing that?
So I like the podcast studio. I think it feels good. I like the quality of the production, and I like how guests feel when they come in and they're like, oh, this is a real place. And like they see all the cameras and what could you do differently from, I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know enough about the business and what's behind it. We could dive into it. I think you need more consistent content. When I'm going through this stuff, I should see more stuff. Like what you have is really funny. So when you want it, and like you don't want to wait for it, right? So you're like, oh, I want to know. Like I'm interested to know. Like I really got to go find out what happens when you soundproof a van, right? Like that sort of stuff. And there's a place and there's an important role that people like yourself play in humanity, where you're laughing at us. And I tend to agree with your take on the cancellation piece. Is like we need to laugh at ourselves more. Like trying to ruin Louis C.K.'s career at this point is overkill. Yeah. He's not Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
Like we should be able to differentiate between Harvey Weinstein and some of these other folks, right? Like Ryan Adams, the singer. Like who didn't look at Ryan Adams, the singer, and go, that guy's creepy. He's using his music production skills and amazing songwriting ability to creep on girls. Like, come on. Like that came with it. But I think laughing at ourselves and building, what I would say the improvement is produce more content. Like,
fair.
Like
you're not wrong.
Make it easier to know you. Make it easier to find you. I think the podcast studio, you could give me free podcast time.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Besides that, I think you guys got a pretty good recipe. How you expand it, how you make it a bigger business. There's so many different ways.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I was thinking this through this morning. Is like, how do I get nads here? Not for my podcast, but all podcasts, right? Like, how do you start to think through that? Because like the network model, you've seen different people do the podcast. That doesn't quite work.
It can work, but it's definitely a bigger risk. For a potentially bigger reward. Right. But yeah, most of them, you make all this content, you spend all this money, and they don't get enough views to make a profit.
Pay.
Yeah.
So like, how do you influence that, right? Like, and I think there's a lot of ways, and it sort of starts with high quality production. That's to me, and you got that piece. So just personally, I'd like more content.
Cool.
But that's true of me. Like
it's hard. It's one of those things where we all kind of know we need to be doing that, but easier said than done, but also not easier said than done. Just do it. Don't be a lazy piece of shit.
There's a very direct correlation to the number of YouTube shorts you put out and YouTube subscribers.
Yes.
Like it's like not, it's such that you
They
can't.
say now you're supposed to do 3 a day
3 shorts.
to hit the algorithm. That's what I've heard. That's the latest
The latest
thing that I've heard. You're supposed to do 3 shorts a day, and that's a lot. That's paying either an editor or spending a lot of your day editing and shooting. So it's hard.
Yeah, and I have all those pieces, and it's still like, oh, I got to go do that. Like seriously, or like, who do you get to hold the phone or the camera? What's the show you want to do? Like the one that like Ari Mannis has like, this is the show. Is it The Garden? Is it Radio City? Is it
what venue?
Yeah, what venue? What's the show? Like your show?
Honestly, because I've opened for a few comedians as they've grown from comedy clubs to theaters to even arenas. So I'm lucky enough to where I've performed in all those venues, opening for people, not on my own.
What's the one?
I truly have the most fun in comedy clubs.
Yeah.
I know you don't make as much money, you can't hit as many cities, but if I was selling out comedy clubs, if I was selling out the Comedy Store, the Cellar, or even just on the road at the Comedy Works in Denver or these high-end comedy clubs, that's my dream. I mean, would a theater and arena be able to do those? Be amazing? Of course. That'd be incredible. But as far as just the pure joy of doing stand-up, I like a sold-out comedy club.
Is it the intimacy?
It's getting to see the crowd, play off the crowd on the room. When you're in a theater, you're literally doing your act. You can't address the person in the front row because the people in the back won't know what you're talking about or hear them. So it's cool. Don't get me wrong. And they're making tons of money and it means they're very successful. But as far as just the funness of comedy, I like comedy clubs. So that's my goal would just be to be able to perform at comedy clubs as much as I wanted to.
I have a definite East Coast bias, like being in the Cellar on a special night, like being the special act that walks into the Cellar or the Comedy Store, right? Like the unannounced person, that would be.
That would just be of a level of stroking my ego. Would be if I could drop in at the Comedy Cellar. Yeah. You've made it. You've done it. You're respected in comedy, and that would be amazing. But if I took my ego out of it and I was a healthy individual that didn't need that validation, then just being able to perform at any good comedy room in New York City should be good.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.